So while we're waiting to order some of the service bits, I thought I'd take a look round, see anything obvious that needed to be tackled. One of the first things I've seen is a load of electrical tape, which always makes me very suspicious. So we definitely want to take a look at what is going on. So I stripped the tape off earlier off camera, and definitely right to be concerned. We can see here that the insulation material for this wire is degrading and coming off. I don't know, it looks sort of like the wire's got a bit too hot and has melted its own sheathing. And you can also see a previous repair here, which is, I mean, not great. In fact, you can see some crispy remains of insulation there. So I think what we'll do is we'll whip this off, certainly whip this repair off, and then we will try and do a bit of a nicer repair here. Ideally this could do with the cable being replaced. I don't think I've got any of this gauge to hand, so we might just repair it for now and then look to replace it when we've got something suitable in the future. So I've not got anything the same gauge as this wire, so I think what we'll do is pull this previous repair apart, do it a bit nicer, and we'll just have to run with this wiring for now. You can see it's a bit chewed up down here too, so I'll tell you what, we'll pop the wiring off of the starter motor so we've got better access, and we will get to fixing it. So something about this didn't feel quite right to me. Obviously the wires got very hot at some point, it's melted. So something didn't feel quite right. So I've had a quick look at the wiring diagram, and there's supposed to be a fusible link in this section. And obviously the point of a fusible link is to fuse the wire to the point where if the current being supplied is too high, then the fusible link will fuse and melt and break the connection to protect the rest of the loom beyond this point. Obviously that's not happened. Well, obviously it has happened and has burnt everything out. And instead of someone replacing the fusible link with another fusible link, what they've chosen to do is just use a butt connector and remove the fuse effectively from this. So this is absolutely not what we're going to do, and we are going to get a fusible link and fix this mess. So I'll need to order a part for that one, so we'll have to come back to this part again later. So we've been doing a bit further digging into the wiring after the missing fusible link, because if that's missing it's probably worth checking what else is. So interestingly, the positive terminal on the battery, the connection is helped here by some screws, which I suspect was not done by the good people in the Kubota factory. So you can see that screw runs all the way through there. Again, I don't know what gauge of wiring this is. I mean, it obviously works, it starts, but it's not great. And equally on the negative cable, it's terminated certainly better, but it's crimped very poorly on the other end, so we might look to actually just replace those with something a little bit more suitable, preferably with a crimped end. So yeah, let's see what else we can find, because if it's nothing else, it's at least interesting. So I think we'll whip a couple of panels off the side and see what we can get to. This doesn't feel very nice, and unfortunately I can't use a torch this close to the diesel tank and the wiring harness. So this might be quite an interesting one to try and remove here. This has either gone well or not well. No, we're okay, we've got it. That's all right. So while we're over here looking at wiring things, let's replace the connector for the alternator, which is held on by a couple of wires, which is probably a couple of wires less than it should be held on with. I think what we're going to have to do to repair this is re-crimp, obviously crimp on a new terminal, but we're going to have to cut the loom back to give ourselves a bit of extra wires. So I'm just going to peel back this section of the loom. In fact, there you go. The connector's just just broken free. So if I wasn't here doing this, it wouldn't have been far behind. And you can see it's been chafing on the loom there as well, on the loom sheathing. It's got a case of the old green crusties. So that's not looking super hot. And yeah, we've got some loom damage back there as well. But I think we're looking okay there. So I think the only thing that we can do for now, I'll probably just put a bit of heat shrink over this quickly. Don't really think we needed wire strippers there. So we'll just pop this off. Good, that's been nicely over tightened. And that's too narrow to get a spanner in. We'll see if we can grab it with some pliers. And the verdict is no. No, we can't. So we can see if we can shock it loose. No. Yes. See you later. Right, so let's wind this back in. So that's nice and tight now. We find a suitable ring terminal. And I'm going to cut the insulating plastic off of this, and we're going to use heat shrink to seal it. And we'll cut ourselves a nice piece of heat shrink. Just check the terminal size down. So probably actually a better fit on that terminal size, so we'll just clip this one off. So that'll give us a much nicer connection. So I'm having to go at freeing everything up and off and sort of to how it should be. So I've managed to get the right brake pedal loose and free with a bit of heat. So that now operates the right brake. The left pedal is still stuck. But I've also been looking at the lever here for the bi-speed turn, which was completely seized. So I've taken the linkage off of the bottom, so it's no longer connected to the box. I've just popped the linkage out of the other end of this lever arm here, because it moves, but when it's in the correct place, it is seized again. So I think there is, on the back of this, probably a ball bearing and a spring, because it looks like it should move into different positions. But obviously when that ball bearing is in its top slot, it doesn't move between the two positions. So I think if we take this off, it may well be seized in position. So we'll try and wiggle this out and get that fixed. Yeah, okay, perfect. So yeah, there's a ball bearing there. And I assume that there's a spring in the back of this and it's just got stuck. So we'll clean the gunk off this and maybe this will help us. Could be quite an easy fix. There we go. One hot ball. And then I assume in here is the remnants of a spring. Oh wow. I don't know if you can see, but it's just packed full of rust, and the springs almost fused to the inner bore of this. There was no way this was going to work. Oh wow, yeah. Okay, we might end up having to drill this out, unfortunately. But okay, we'll see if we can get a spring for it. So, to my amazement, we've actually managed to get the spring out. So I managed to clear the rust out of the bore, then effectively tap this down with a punch, and then as it sprang back, it broke the lip on the corrosion. So that's brilliant. So it saves us buying a new one of those. Obviously, it's not going to be as springy as it should be, but it's free. So now I'm just thinking whether we can tickle this, maybe with a little drill bit. Hopefully that clears the rust out of the bore. We don't want to cut into it. We obviously just want to clean it off, which it looks like it's done quite nicely actually. Then I think we will finish it off with a rasp. That's now unrestricted in there, and I suppose we can just give this a little to take off any high spots. We'll just pop a bit of chain lead in here. Yeah, feels okay. Okay, so that went a little off the rails, but it's now back on and almost nearly works well. So had a bit of a trouble getting it off, and the pin that goes through this lever here was split on both sides. So I had to take this out, but I couldn't access a split pin on the other side of it because it's tucked up in the chassis rail and you can't get to it. So I had to take the lower arm off, split pin out, punch that through, which then gave enough clearance to take the split pin off the other end of this rod. Then I could take the rod down, then I could drill that out, then I could put it back in. I've also given the makeshift, I don't know if you've seen this, the throttle assembly, which should have a lever up top, has been, it's this now. It's functional, I guess, but we'll probably look to rectify that in the future. But we've now got a semi-functional, I say semi-functional because it wants to go down very well, but you struggle to get it back up. So I'm hoping that frees up over time. But either way, that's now back to functioning capacity. So I'm going to go on now and try and unseize the brake pedal for the left-hand side brake. So I'm in the rear brake now. I had a bit of success freeing the right-hand side up. That just needed a little bit of heat and that operates freely now and returns on its own, which is amazing. This side I couldn't get to turn at all. I've not been filming so far because I've had a torch on it for a couple of hours and I actually had to go out and buy a better, hotter torch. And in the end I pulled the actual drum brake face casing off, and as you can see it's full of something. So we're going to try and clean this out. I don't know whether this is asbestos or not, so I'm wearing a mask. The gasket as well for the that sits here is also torn, so we'll need to make a new one of these, but that shouldn't be too difficult to do. We can do that, no problem. So I'm going to clean this up, and obviously I've got here the accompanying brake, and obviously that was never gonna free off on its own. So we can, after we've cleaned this up, we'll strip it back and hopefully free it off. Okay, so with the brake shoes removed, there's a circlip that holds our pin in. I've already undone this one for convenience. Trying to do this backwards is not easy. One very rusty circlip. In theory, we should be able to hit this out, but I might wire wheel it before we ever go. I will add, I'm still wearing a mask. That's still not loose. I don't even think that's moving at all. I think what we're going to do is heat the housing to try and get the... so if we heat the housing, we'll try and get the arm to spin. Because at the moment, nothing. And I'm hoping once we get it spinning, it will then come out. So I've just managed to hammer it out. I've been going at this for a while. I don't know if you can see from the camera, but that is smoking. Well, you can see the back of this is even crispy white. I had to get this absolutely glowing to get this out. This was really seized in there. Yeah, I had absolutely no chance of breaking that off on the vehicle. You can see it's absolutely packed full of rust, and the housing is exactly the same. Exactly the same. So I think yeah, we obviously need to clean this up, clean the housing up, and then get the two back together. Obviously then we need to go make a new gasket to put this back together. A bit of a pain, but you know, what can you do? So let me get the stuff ready to clean this up and we'll get cleaning. So we're going to use a Dremel with a sanding add-on for this one, for the housing. It's a bit underpowered, this one, so let's see how we go. So that's worked pretty well. I think this was an O-ring at some point. And there as well. Obviously it's not O-ringing anymore. Yeah. Yeah, same there. Let's just see how the Dremel does on this one. Oh yeah, great. Okay, well, let's get the last of the O-rings out. Still very hot. I'll come back when this is done. Okay, so we've got the two O-rings. I think they're a bit small, to be honest, but I haven't quite got something that I think is right. Either way, they do fit nicely in here and doesn't appear to cause any issues, so call that fine by me. So brilliant, let's get this put back together. So super easy. Like that. And now we need to go make a gasket. Okay, so I'm just back in, just popped a gasket out. I've remade a version of it. It's not pretty, it's not very good work, but hopefully it should fit. Looks like it will line up well enough. So there you go. Just trying to get it down evenly so we don't pinch anything. So these are pretty loose before, so I'm not going to do them up mega tight, considering the size of the ratchet. Just snug will do, I think. And we now have operable brakes. So we now have semi-functional brakes. I say semi-functional because the pivot shaft doesn't want to return for the left brake pedal, so that's going to be our next job. Okay, so you missed a fair bit. I didn't keep it rolling while I was doing the work, but we've now got a functioning brake pedal. So the pedal now moves and the brake actuates on both sides, which is great. So the issue that I had before, obviously the right hand brake pedal rotates on the shaft that runs through the base of the chassis. So that was okay, that was always all right. But this pedal, you can see even now it's a bit sticky, runs through the chassis, and it was completely seized solid. And it took me maybe 2 or 3 hours with a torch and a mallet hammer to free that off. Even now it's a bit sticky, but I'm hoping with use it sort of frees up. But when the pedals are connected to each other, the spring weight of both return springs returns both pedals. We had a casualty for the pin that holds this pedal on onto the shaft. At the moment that's held in with an M8 bolt, but we'll get that swapped over when the new pin arrives. So while I've been doing this, some of the servicing things have turned up, so let's get started with those. So just kind of a quick go at cracking these exhaust bolts off. Oh, luckily these aren't on very tight. I think we'd be in trouble if they were. It's about the only thing that's not seized on this. Oh, that one's just spinning, I think. We'll try a smaller socket. That'll do, I think. Sheared is undone, I guess.